Greetings, Pilgrims. Welcome to another episode of the Polygon Pilgrimage, and today we've got the continuation of our Battle Pass series here with the rewards, and I'm going to show you the final step so that when we hover over the objects here, our reward preview is shown properly. Now, you may notice a difference in the audio quality, so just a quick shout out to my friend Gordon helping me with that, so you guys will appreciate and enjoy much better audio quality from here on out. So, with that said, let's take a look. So I just hit play here really quick. I go and take a look at my battle pass. You can see that I've set up 100 tiers, and we don't need to go all the way over, but just getting things back to the way that you guys will probably use this. As you can see here, I can move my mouse around, no big deal. But when I hover over these, now, as soon as I hover over, it's showing me the preview. So I've got two different types here. Essentially, it's going to show this to show an image. So this would be for something like if you're getting some money, or if you're getting some in-game currency, or a XP boost or something like that. And then we can go here and hover over these, and these will show us different characters. So now as I hover over this, you see the character appears, and I can click and drag like we did last time. So I can click and drag this and move my character around. But now, as soon as I hover over a different one, you'll notice that it's changing out what's there. So this hover over and change out what we're looking at, that's what we're looking at doing today. Okay, so over here, if I take a look at my cloned tiers that are generated here under our reward area mask, under our display panel. So this is our display panel, which you can see here when I select it, you can see it goes off into the distance. This is all the 100 tiers, and this thing just slides back and forth. So we click on the Reward Template Manager. This is where most of the changes have occurred. So in this Reward Template Manager script here, these are the things that we're calling out to it. So each of these templates, if you remember, this template down here is kind of like a blank canvas. Think of it as like a blank piece of paper. And we're just telling it, hey, this is the structure we want you to have. And then this major and minor, and then those are where we put in the images. So these images back here, and then the actual background, and then the icon that fits on top of it. But on the actual object itself, on this top level object, so this guy and this guy, as you can see here, if I move this over a little bit more, they're all called clones because they've been cloned or instantiated in the scene here. But on this object is this script. And, we've done this in the previous episodes, but I want to show you this is where the changes have occurred. So the preview area it already knows about, which is this invisible object here. The character pedestal is this. And then the character link is if it has a character, it's going to say, what character do you want me to spawn here? So let's find one that has a character link. So this guy here. So this clone here, if I hide this in the scene, we can see which one that is. That's the one that's blinking. So that's this guy right here. So if I hover over this guy, this is the guy we're talking about, okay? So we pause it just so we can look at everything. So this guy is saying, hey, this character pedestal, all that's doing is if I come down here, down, up a little bit more, right here, this character pedestal. This is that object in the scene, and if we look on it, there it is. And all it's saying is it's getting a handle to where this is in the world because it knows it needs to put something there, okay? So we come back to our character here. So it's saying, where is that? Okay, there's that object, gotcha. Then this character link. So this is where you're going to put in a prefab of what character do you want to spawn in this location. So for this character, it's the first one on the list here, this guy. So it's this soldier. And this comes from our prefabs, character 1 or character 2. So this is a character 1, so that's this guy here. And the character 2 is this. And this can be anything you want. So what I've got is it's a model with an animation controller just so that it does the cool poses. Underneath that, you see it's just the pieces that make up that character. So very easy to kind of drag and drop that in there. Just make sure the whole thing is a prefab here in your prefabs. And then when you go to set up your character link, you just drag and drop them in right there. This BPM is not necessarily needed. I can get rid of that before I finalize the code for you. That was looking for the Battle Pass Manager, but we found a different way around that. Okay, so that's essentially it. So if I come down here and we're looking at our characters and then I hover over a different one, well, what it's doing is it's doing a couple of things. So every time I hover over one of these guys, it's going to say, okay, I need you to hide whatever it is you have going on here. So for the images, that's just a simple image in this area. So if we come down to, say, this first one, right, this first guy is this guy. So that's this guy. So see, there's no character. It still looks up what the character pedestal is just by default, but you notice there's no character. And it's saying, call this reward called Bert. So when I was making my rewards, I had to make 2 of them to test both a flat image and a character. So of course I called them Bert and Ernie. So if you look at Bert here, all Bert is an image, right? So when I hover over this one, if I hover over Bert here, it just has to show this image. But for Ernie, which is the first of our characters, right? Ernie is an image here to show the result of the camera, but it's also the actual model. Because if we look down here with our characters, in this character pedestal, we need to hide the other characters and then just show the one that we really want to see. So that's where the difficulty comes in with the code. It's not really difficult, but let's take a look at it. Okay. So you notice that my scripting here looks a little different. This is called VS Code. It's like a more lightweight Visual Studio. It also allows for collaboration. And I've installed this and got this running because I'm getting ready for the level up competition, which begins tomorrow, as of I'm recording this on Thursday evening. So that's why this looks a little different, because I'm getting ready to do a jam. So, but don't worry about it. It's still all the same code. It'll still look fine in yours when you load it in. All right, so we have 2 changes here I wanted to show you. In the Battle Pass Manager, not a lot has changed. Really nothing has changed in here. This is all the same that you're used to seeing it. The only real addition is that in our public references, we do now have a reference to all of the previews right here. And we do have a reference to, I believe there was a reference to, the reward right here, the reward prefab. The reason being is that we're going to use this, we're going to bounce back and forth to this to look up the objects that it is spawning. Because down here, when we do the fill reward content, we are spawning these objects. And so we're going to reach into this RTM, into the reward template manager, reach into that and say, hey, I need to get some information about this. But since this is the script that does that spawning, we can just fill these variables and pass them along. So really that's all that's changed here. The meat and potatoes of the changes are here in the reward template manager. Now remember, the reward template manager, if we go up to our objects here, that is this guy here. So this is the one that's on the template. This is one that has the link to the character and the link to what is the preview, right? So if we go to this guy, let's take a look at some of the changes. Let's just go through it together. So in the very beginning, on awake, we need to say, hey, I need to find the preview area because I need to have a handle to that. And I need to find the character pedestal so we can handle that. No big deal. Just as usual, we're going to fill in the icons. So none of that code has changed. Here's where the beginning of the changes happens. So let's not do that. Thank you. Oh boy, what did I do there? Show me my... Okay, close that. I did some kind of weird search. So in here, this is where the on pointer enters. So when our pointer, our mouse cursor, enters that space, that is the square icon, what do we want to do? So we're going to find every game object that has this tag called reward preview. So let's take a look. So anything in here that is a character, you'll see we have a tag called reward preview. And the templates do not have them themselves, but the characters and the other objects that are just the, like Bert. So he has reward preview as well. He's not a character, but he has just this. But the characters themselves also have this. So like Ernie is one of the character showcase things. He has reward preview, and also character 1, which is the character that he shows, has a reward preview. So the model itself plus Ernie, which is the preview, okay? So they both have this tag reward preview so we can find those objects. And as a reminder, if you don't know how to do a tag or you're not familiar, if you don't have a tag, if you click this and it's not in the list, just click add tag here. You'll have to click the plus, add your tag, and then this will still be in the way. So just click on any object and now click back to the thing that you were messing with, and then it'll be available in the list now. Okay. So we make sure that those have the tags. We can find them all easily. Then we're going to do a for each. So I'm going to say for every object in the scene that the game object is in our all previews. So our all previews is what we just captured here, saying give me everything that has this tag and put it in this bucket. Now go through everything in the bucket and turn them all off, essentially. Then I'm going to say reward preview.set active true for this one, for this instantiation. And then if our character link is not null, so if we go to our characters, let's hit play one more time, sorry about that. So if our character link is not null, so if I go in here and I say, here, character link, this is null, there's nothing in there, okay? But if it's not null, so we go to the second one, this is not null, there's something in there, character 1. So what do we do with that? Well, if it's not null, okay, it's not, then turn that true as well. So what's interesting is the character link, which is the model, remember, also has this tag of reward preview. So this means that when we hover over something, we're going to turn off all the characters plus their preview image thing that is the capture of the camera. So turn everything off and then just turn them back on. Nice and easy. Now we're not actually doing anything with on pointer exit, but in order to use all of our functions up here, these guys, it does have it in here. So I just left it in there for now. It's no harm done. There's empty code here, but you could do like an on exit if you wanted to do some effect or something. That's where you would put this. So on pointer exit would be when you remove your cursor from one, but remember this would happen in between doing that and pointing to the next one as well. So be aware of that. Excuse me. Then down here we have a new function called spawn preview. And if we look up top here, I believe spawn preview gets called not from here, but from our other script. So the spawning preview says we're going to pass in the battle pass reward. So we're going to get a handle to the reward that we've created. And on that reward, it's going to call out what to do. So if we go here and look at our battle pass rewards, when I click on this reward, notice this guy is a bad example because he doesn't have anything in here, but we go to Oscar. So Oscar, it's going to look up the reward preview here. So this is the reward. This is the thing that gets filled into these templates. And it says, hey, what is your preview? Okay, your preview is called Oscar. And what character should I show? If I should show one, I should show this. So here is what that's saying. It's saying, hey, we're going to handle the reward. Now we're going to get its information. Say, let's go ahead and instantiate its preview and put it in the preview area. Makes sense, right? And if the character link is not null, so if we are going to spawn a character like that one we just looked at is, then hey, let's go ahead and spawn that character preview and put it at the character pedestal transform, because that's where we need to put it, is in that character pedestal. Because remember, we were looking for that because that's what the camera is looking at. And then go ahead and set that off, turn that off if the character is there, and also turn off our preview. Even though we just spawned it into the world, we want it to go dark right away. And here's why. So if I hit play to start the scene, my mouse cursor is not currently looking at anything. So I don't want to have a reward preview appear right away, right? It should only appear once I hover over something like that. But when I first start the scene, when I first come to this, even if it's in your menu and you're clicking back and forth and you come to this, you don't want to have it just suddenly appear with whatever the last one was. It's just a little sloppy. So the way we do this is here is when we are spawning these, we're going to set them to false set active after we get a handle to them. So we set them invisible, so to speak, right away. Then we only turn them visible up here if we hover over them. It's really quite simple and elegant. It just took a lot to get it all figured out. And the changes over here to our Battle Pass Manager were very minimal. You know, we're just getting things all set up here. And I believe maybe down here, instantiate, yeah, the reward prefab did get spawned in here. So we made one change in here. And we're going to return the reward template manager like usual. But so this is going to spawn our prefab. And so once that gets spawned, then in the template manager, you know, we're able to reach in and say, okay, well now when I hover over these things, now it exists. So those two things working in conjunction is what makes all of this happen. So again, let's take a look really fast. So all we have to do is an update to this script, this reward template manager script. So what you may have to do is, what I like to do is go into your project and then rename the old script to like .old or something like that, just so it doesn't recognize it as a real file, but it's still there. And then bring this new one in, and you may have to rehook up these things a little bit to get the code. It used to be, this used to work for me. It doesn't work anymore. If you right click on this and say reset, it would reset this, which means it would clear all this out, but it would get the current code for this script. Doesn't always work for me, but you can reset this just fine. And then all you have to do is make sure that your objects in the scene are labeled properly. And I have found that the order is important. So if you see here, I have my preview rotator is this thing, this invisible button we click on to click and drag. This has to be pretty low in the list here. So within the actual Battle Pass canvas object itself, I have it on the very bottom, which means the way Unity renders things, this is on the top so that when I click and drag, it'll work because it was interfering with my buttons. Then down here in your reward preview setup area, remember this is at 0, -2000, 0. We have our character base, and then the cylinder is just this bottom here. So if you wanted to replace this with an actual model with textures and everything, like the one we used for the main menu when you hover over the characters, you could put that here. And then the character pedestal is just an empty game object, again, all at 0, 0, 0. And this is, very importantly, 0, 0, 0, because the cylinder here is actually, if you look carefully, it's at 0.025. I've scaled it down a little bit to make sure that the character's feet appear right where this is, okay? So then that will also depend on your character. So if your character does not have a pivot at the bottom of their feet, they might be like in the middle of all this. And so you might want to have an empty game object that you put your character inside of, and then have this be that bottom pivot, and then your character will spawn properly. So you might have some issues with that depending on your character that you use. And the rest of this is just the lights here that we all talked about last time, and the camera setting everything up. Nothing there has changed, but just be aware that this character pedestal object, which is a child of this, which is a child of this is where it's going to want to spawn your character. So make sure it's called character pedestal, just like this, because that's what it's looking for in the code. So if you change the name of this, you will have to change the code as well for what it's looking for, because that's where it's going to try and put it here. Character pedestal, okay? And that's looking for it up here. It's going to find right here. So if you change it to something else, you need to change it right here on this line, 32, okay? So a couple people asked about that kind of thing. So the spelling is important, the capitalization is important, the exact way that I have it here, because that's how I've got it set up. You're welcome to change that, but just know that if you do, you need to understand where it's all pointing at and what it needs to change there. Okay, I think that's good. You guys should be all set. So I will save this one more time, apply this setting. So let's take a look one last time, make sure it's all working. And here we go. I can hover over my objects and I can rotate my characters, and all is well and good. And I have noticed I'm trying to do this, like rotate this guy this way, this guy facing that way. And I believe it keeps it. Maybe it doesn't. Let's see. Might reset it every time you point at it. Yeah, I think it keeps the rotation of the overall object and not the guy itself, you know. So that's an improvement for another day kind of thing. But it does work. We get some cool characters to look at here and drag and rotate and look at. And we got our cool icons. So please, you know, use this to your heart's content. You know, send me cool screenshots of what you guys have made. I think we're almost done with the Battle Pass, guys. We got 2, maybe 3 more episodes, and then we're moving on to some other projects, and I've got some exciting stuff coming down the pipe, some amazing things, and we're about to do Level Up, so I'll have some cool stuff come out of that as well. So be looking for that. Until then, guys, keep practicing, get better, and I'll see you next time as the pilgrimage continues.